The Persian Gulf is silent just before dawn. It is April 2026. The water is black glass beneath a moon fading into the horizon. A faint wind drifts across the flight deck of the U.S. aircraft carrier, USS Theodore Roosevelt. Deck lights glow dim red through a thin curtain of sea mist. Lieutenant Daniel Carter stands beside his fighter jet, helmet tucked under one arm. 28 years old, Texas-born. 12 combat sorties over Syria earlier in his career, but tonight feels different. No one on the deck is joking. Technicians move quickly in the dim light, checking missiles, tightening panels, whispering over radios. The tension spreads through the crew like electricity. Everyone knows the order that came 2 hours ago. Iranian coastal missile batteries have fired on U.S. naval assets in the Strait of Hormuz. To destroyers damaged, Washington has answered. Now the carrier group launches the first strike. Carter stares east across the water. Somewhere beyond the darkness lies the Iranian coast. Radar sites, missile bunkers, Revolutionary Guard bases buried in mountains. Targets. His wingman, Lieutenant Marcus Reyes, climbs down from his jet ladder and walks over. "You ready for this?" Reyes asks quietly. Carter exhales. "No one's ready for the first night of a war." Reyes nods. Neither of them laughs. A loudspeaker cracks across the deck. "Strike package Alpha. Man your aircraft." The deck suddenly explodes into motion. Yellow shirt directors wave glowing wands. Engines roar alive one by one. The carrier vibrates under thousands of pounds of thrust. Steam drifts across the deck in ghost-like waves. Carter climbs into the cockpit. The canopy closes with a metallic click, sealing him into a small glass bubble above the ocean. Inside the helmet, his breathing sounds louder than the engines. His radio comes alive. Roosevelt control to strike Alpha. Iranian radar active along the coast. Expect surface-to-air missile engagement. Carter grips the throttle. He has trained for this moment his entire career. Simulators, live-fire drills, endless briefings. But training never includes the smell of jet fuel and cold sea air at 4:12 in the morning. Training never includes the quiet knowledge that people will die today. Ahead of him, the first jet launches from the catapult. The aircraft disappears into darkness with a thunderclap. Reyes taxis into position beside him. "See you on the other side," Reyes says over the radio. Carter answers calmly, "Stay on my wing." The launch officer kneels on the deck and points forward. Engines scream to full power. For a split second the entire world holds its breath. Then the catapult fires. Carter's jet slams forward, launching into the dark Persian Gulf sky. Within minutes, 12 aircraft form up above the carrier group, climbing toward the Iranian coastline. Below them, American warships move like shadows across the water. Then the radar warning receiver inside Carter's cockpit begins to scream, a sharp electronic tone. The missile climbs like a spear of fire through the darkness. Inside Lieutenant Daniel Carter's cockpit, the radar warning alarm screams, a violent, pulsing tone that cuts through the roar of his engines. On the digital display, a red triangle flashes rapidly. Missile launch detected. Distance closing fast. Carter's voice stays calm on the radio. Brake right, SAM launch." The American formation explodes apart instantly. 12 fighter jets scatter across the night sky like startled birds. After years of training, the reaction is instinctive. Pilots roll hard, diving and climbing to confuse the missile's radar lock. Carter slams his control stick sideways. His jet tilts violently, pulling a hard right turn that pushes him deep into his seat. Gravity crushes against his chest. 7 Gs. His vision narrows slightly. The missile streaks past beneath him, a white-hot blur ripping through the sky. For a moment, Carter thinks it missed. Then another warning tone screams in his helmet. A second missile launch. More streaks of fire rise from the Iranian coastline. "They're ready for us." Roosevelt control. "This is Alpha 1, Carter says into the radio. Multiple SAM sites active along the coast. Static crackles. "Alpha 1, Roosevelt. Confirmed. Iranian air defense is fully alert. Continue strike mission. Continue the mission." Carter exhales slowly. The coastline of Iran grows closer on the horizon, a jagged black silhouette beneath. The faint glow of dawn. Somewhere down there are the missile batteries that attacked the U.S. fleet. His mission is simple: destroy them. His targeting system begins locking onto coordinates, transmitted from an American surveillance drone circling high above the battlefield. Target: Revolutionary Guard missile site near Bandar Abbas. Distance: 26 miles. Below the formation, the dark sea gives way to mountains and desert coastline. The land looks quiet from above, but Carter knows what hides there. Radar dishes, missile launchers, anti-aircraft guns, and soldiers waiting in the dark. Rey's voice appears over the radio. "Danny, I've got heat signatures ahead. Looks like mobile launchers. Carter adjusts his targeting screen. Then he sees them. Tiny glowing dots along a dirt road cutting through the mountains. Moving vehicles. Missile trucks. They're relocating their launchers to avoid the strike. Smart. Too late. Alpha flight, Carter says calmly. Targets confirmed. Weapons free. One by one, American jets drop lower toward the Iranian coastline. The desert mountains rush closer beneath them. Carter flips the switch on his weapons panel. 2 precision-guided bombs arm beneath his wings. His targeting system locks onto the lead missile truck moving along the road. A small green square stabilizes around the vehicle. Locked. Fox strike, Carter mutters. He presses the release button. The bomb drops away silently. For 2 seconds, nothing happens. Then the desert explodes. The warning tone changes. Inside Lieutenant Daniel Carter's helmet, the radar display flashes to new red symbols racing across the screen. They rise fast from the Iranian interior, climbing aggressively toward the American strike package. Enemy fighters. Carter studies the speed and trajectory. Fast, disciplined. Someone down there scrambled them the moment the bombs started falling. Ray's voice breaks through the radio. Danny, they're coming in hot. Carter zooms the radar scope. The contacts separate slightly as they climb through the morning haze. The aircraft silhouettes begin to appear through the pale light of dawn. Twin tails, sharp delta wings, Iranian interceptors. Looks like F-14s, Ray mutters. Carter's jaw tightens. Old aircraft, but still dangerous. Iran has flown them for decades, upgrading them piece by piece. In the right hands, they can still kill. The Iranian pilots are climbing directly into the American formation. They're not running, they're hunting. Below them, the desert burns where Carter's bombs destroyed the missile convoy. Thick smoke climbs into the sky like a black pillar, marking the start of a war that neither side can now stop. Alpha flight, Carter says calmly. We've got bandits. To contacts, bearing 085. Another pilot answers. Copy, I've got visual. Through the glass canopy, Carter finally sees them. 2 dark shapes slicing through the pale morning sky. They move fast and steady, engines glowing faint orange behind them. Then Carter's radar screams again. Missile lock. The Iranian fighters fire first. A bright flash erupts beneath one of the enemy jets as a long-range air-to-air missile tears into the sky. The missile streaks upward, leaving a thick white trail behind it. Target. The American formation. Missile. Missile. Ray shouts. The sky suddenly erupts into chaos. American pilots scatter again, diving and rolling through the cold air. Carter slams his jet into a sharp turn, pulling hard against the G-forces. The missile roars past the formation, but it does not miss. One of the American jets explodes in a sudden fireball. For a moment, the sky glows orange. Fragments of metal spin downward into the desert below. Carter's stomach tightens. Alpha 3 is hit. Someone yells over the radio. No parachute appears, just smoke falling through the dawn sky. The Iranian fighters close the distance quickly now, pushing straight into the American formation. They are aggressive, confident, and clearly ready for a fight. Carter flips his weapon selector, air-to-air missile armed. The targeting reticle begins searching for a lock. One of the Iranian jets turns directly toward him. Head on. Both pilots see each other now. 2 aircraft racing toward a collision at nearly 2,000 miles per hour. Ray's voice cuts through the radio again. Danny, he's locking you. Carter steadies his breathing. The targeting box finally snaps around the enemy aircraft. Lock confirmed. The missile leaves Carter's wing with a violent burst of flame. For a fraction of a second, 2 streaks of fire race toward each other across the morning sky. 1 American, 1 Iranian. Both pilots know what comes next. Carter shoves the control stick forward and dives. Gravity disappears. The horizon spins violently as his jet rolls into a brutal evasive maneuver. Warning alarms scream through the cockpit while the G-forces slam into his chest. 9 Gs. His vision begins to blur at the edges. The Iranian missile flashes past above him close enough that Carter sees its metal fin slice through the air. A half-second later, the sky erupts behind him. His own missile finds its target. Through his rear camera display, Carter sees the Iranian fighter burst into a cloud of fire and spinning debris. One wing tears free as the aircraft disintegrates. For a brief moment, a tiny dark shape ejects from the explosion. A parachute deploys. The pilot survives, but Carter barely registers it. The second Iranian fighter is already diving into the fight. Danny, check your 6. Ray shouts. Carter glances behind him. The enemy jet screams down from above, engines glowing bright as it drops directly behind Carter's tail. The Iranian pilot has positioned perfectly. Missile range. Carter slams the throttle forward. Afterburners ignite. Twin pillars of flame blast from his engines as the fighter rockets forward across the desert sky. The mountains of southern Iran rise beneath him like jagged teeth, but the enemy pilot stays glued to him. Roosevelt control, Carter says quickly. Bandit on my 6. Static crackles. Then the calm voice of an American. A WACS controller answers from high above the battlefield. Alpha 1, break left immediately. Friendly aircraft moving to assist. Assist. Carter turns his head slightly. Raise. His wingman dives from the upper sky like a hawk. The Iranian pilot notices too late. Raise fires. A missile streaks downward, carving a white line through the air toward the pursuing jet. The Iranian pilot reacts instantly, rolling violently to escape. The missile passes close to close and detonates, just off the aircraft's wing. The blast rocks the jet hard. Smoke pours from its engine, but the fighter does not explode. Instead, it limps away westward, trailing thick black smoke across the sky. Ray's exhales over the radio. Got him running. Carter steadies his breathing. For the first time in minutes, the sky grows quiet. Below them, fires burn across the Iranian coastline where the American strike has landed. Columns of smoke rise from destroyed missile sites and shattered radar stations. The war has begun, but Carter's radar suddenly shows something new. Multiple contacts. Fast, very fast. He zooms the screen. His stomach tightens. Roosevelt control. I'm reading at least 6 new aircraft lifting from inland bases. The AWACS controller pauses, then answers quietly. Alpha flight. Confirmed 6 additional Iranian fighters scrambling. The sky above southern Iran is no longer quiet. Lieutenant Daniel. Carter watches the radar screen in his cockpit fill with red symbols. 1, 2, 3. Then 6 confirmed enemy aircraft climbing rapidly from inland air bases. Iranian fighters. And they are coming fast. The American strike package has already dropped most of its bombs. Their mission was never to stay and fight. It was to strike the missile batteries and get out before Iran could respond. But now the response is here. Alpha flight, Carter says steadily over the radio. New bandits inbound. 6 contacts. High altitude. For a moment, no one speaks. Everyone understands the situation. They are deep inside hostile airspace. More than 100 miles from the carrier group in the Persian Gulf. Fuel is limited. Missiles are limited. And the enemy has the advantage of numbers. Ray's breaks the silence. Danny, that's a lot of company. Carter forces a small breath through his nose. Yeah, it is. Below them, the Iranian coastline burns where American bombs struck radar stations and missile launchers. Thick smoke rises across the desert like dark pillars pointing into the sky. But farther inland, the mountains hide dozens of air bases and military installations. Now those bases are waking up. Carter turns his jet west toward the Persian Gulf. Alpha flight, regroup and head for open water, he orders. We're not staying for round 2. One by one, the surviving American fighters form back into a loose formation, accelerating toward the coast. But the Iranian fighters are already descending toward them. Carter zooms the radar again. 6 contacts spread into a wide arc. They're trying to cut off the escape route. Smart. Roosevelt control, Carter says. Enemy fighters maneuvering to intercept. The response comes quickly. Alpha flight, this is Roosevelt. Carrier group launching additional fighters now. Estimated intercept time. 8 minutes. 8 minutes. In air combat, that is an eternity. Carter glances toward the horizon. The Persian Gulf is still far away. Then Ray speaks again, his voice tighter now. Danny, they're firing. Carter looks up. Across the sky ahead, tiny flashes burst from the wings of the approaching Iranian jets. Missiles launch almost simultaneously. 6 white trails streak across the blue morning sky. The Iranian pilots are firing from long range, trying to force the Americans into defensive maneuvers before they reach the coast. Carter reacts instantly. Break formation. Defensive. The American jets scatter again, diving and rolling across the sky as the missiles scream toward them. Carter releases countermeasures. Bright flares burst behind his aircraft like miniature suns, designed to confuse incoming missiles. One missile curves sharply toward the decoy flares and detonates harmlessly in the air, but another missile keeps tracking. Carter pulls into a violent dive toward the desert floor. Mountains rush upward beneath him. The sky above the Persian Gulf has become a battlefield. Lieutenant Daniel Carter pulls his jet hard into a climbing turn, the aircraft groaning under the strain. The desert mountains blur beneath him while contrails and missile smoke carve white scars across the blue sky. 2 Iranian fighters close in fast behind him and raise. No more long-range missiles. Now it's a dogfight. Raise, stay tight, Carter says over the radio. On your wing. The enemy jets split apart, moving with practiced coordination. One climbs high to gain energy. The other drops low, trying to trap the American fighters between them. They're good, very good. Carter pushes the throttle forward again. Afterburners ignite with a violent roar, launching his jet upward into the thin morning air. The horizon tilts sharply as he rolls to face the incoming fighter. For a split second, both pilots stare directly at each other through the glass of their cockpits. To strangers, to nations, one war. The Iranian jet fires first. A short-range missile leaps from its wing, screaming toward Carter's aircraft. Missile launch. Reyes warns. Carter reacts instantly. He snaps the jet into a brutal high-G turn. The missile streaks past his left wing, missing by only a few meters before exploding in the distance. But the maneuver costs him speed. The second Iranian fighter dives behind him. "Danny, you've got one on your tail." Carter's radar confirms it. Enemy aircraft, 600 meters behind. Closing. The Iranian pilot fires his cannon. Bright flashes spark from the nose of the jet. Tracer rounds streak through the sky, slicing past Carter's cockpit. One round punches through his left wing. The aircraft shudders violently. Warning lights explode across the control panel. Hydraulic pressure dropping. Carter grits his teeth. Not good. Reyes immediately reacts. His jet rockets upward and rolls down toward the pursuing fighter. "Get off him." Reyes fires. A missile streaks downward and detonates just beside the Iranian aircraft. The explosion rips across the jet's fuselage, shredding one of its engines. Flames burst from the aircraft. The Iranian pilot struggles to keep control as the damaged fighter spirals away, trailing smoke. Reyes exhales. One less. But the fight isn't over. Carter glances at his fuel gauge. It drops faster than expected. The earlier damage to his wing is affecting the aircraft. Roosevelt control, Carter says. "This is Alpha 1. I've taken damage. Fuel leak possible." Static fills the radio. Then the AWACS controller answers calmly. "Alpha 1, friendly reinforcements now 3 minutes out." 3 minutes. Carter scans the sky again. 4 Iranian fighters remain. They circle high above the battlefield like predators, waiting for the next opening. One of them suddenly dives toward Carter. Fast, very fast. The enemy jet fires another missile from close range. Too close. The warning alarm screams in Carter's helmet. He pulls hard on the controls, but the cockpit fills with smoke. Lieutenant Daniel Carter coughs inside his oxygen mask as warning alarms scream around him. Red lights flash across every panel in front of him. Engine failure, hydraulic loss, fuel pressure critical. The missile's explosion didn't destroy the aircraft, but it crippled it. His fighter shudders violently as it drops through the sky. Below him, the jagged desert mountains rush closer every second. Altitude, 11,000 feet, dropping fast. Carter grips the control stick, fighting to stabilize the aircraft. The damaged wing drags heavily through the air, pulling the jet sideways as he struggles to keep it level. "Danny, respond." Rey's voice shouts through the radio. Carter forces his breathing steady. "I'm hit." Controls barely responding. He tries to pull the nose up. The aircraft responds slowly, painfully. Altitude, 9,000 feet. The Iranian fighters circle above like wolves watching wounded prey. One of them begins descending again. They want to finish him. Reyes immediately moves to intercept. "You're not touching him." Reyes growls. His jet rockets upward toward the descending Iranian fighter. Another missile fires from beneath his wing, screaming across the sky toward the enemy aircraft. The Iranian pilot rolls sharply, dodging the missile at the last second. But the maneuver forces him away from Carter. For now, inside the damaged cockpit, Carter's hands move quickly across the controls. Emergency procedures. Restart engine. Stabilize flight. Anything. But the instruments continue blinking red. Altitude, 7,000 feet. He looks down through the cracked canopy glass. The desert floor is terrifyingly close now. Rocky ridges and dry valleys rush upward beneath him. If the jet hits the ground at this speed, there will be nothing left. His radio crackles again. The calm voice of the AWACS controller speaks. "Alpha 1, you are cleared to eject." Carter says nothing. He tries the controls one more time. The jet tilts violently again. No response. Altitude, 5,000 feet. Reyes shouts through the radio. "Danny, punch out." Carter stares ahead for a moment. The war has lasted less than 30 minutes, and already his aircraft is finished. Slowly, he grips the yellow ejection handle between his legs. Outside the cockpit, the desert landscape races upward. Altitude, 3,500 feet. One last breath. Carter pulls the handle. The cockpit explodes. The canopy blasts away in a violent burst of air and metal. The ejection seat rockets upward with brutal force, launching Carter into the open sky. The damaged fighter continues falling without him. A second later, the parachute deploys above his head. Silence replaces the roar of the engines. Carter hangs in the cold morning air, drifting slowly downward toward the Iranian desert. Far above him, the battle still rages. Jets scream across the sky. Missiles explode. Ray's aircraft streaks past in pursuit of another enemy fighter. But Carter's war has suddenly changed. He looks down again. The desert wind carries Lieutenant Daniel Carter slowly toward the ground. His parachute canopy snaps and rustles above him as he drifts across the barren mountains of southern Iran. The air is cold at altitude, but the rising sun is already beginning to heat the rocky landscape below. For the first time since the battle began, the sky is quiet around him. Too quiet. The dogfight has moved farther, west toward the Persian Gulf. The distant thunder of jet engines fades slowly into the horizon. Carter glances upward. Ray's jet streaks across the sky one last time, chasing an Iranian fighter toward the coast. Then both aircraft disappear. Carter is alone. Altitude, 2,000 feet. He studies the terrain carefully. Below him stretches a maze of jagged hills and dry valleys, broken by narrow dirt roads winding through the mountains. In the distance, a small military outpost sits beside one of the roads. Iranian vehicles. Even from this height he can see them. 2 trucks, and soldiers moving between them. His stomach tightens. They will see the parachute. He quickly reaches for the emergency survival kit strapped to his seat harness. His hands move automatically, following the training drilled into him during years of preparation. Survive, evade, resist, escape. But those lessons were always practiced in forests, jungles, mountains. Not here, not alone. Altitude, 1,200 feet. The wind shifts suddenly. His parachute drifts east, pushing him directly toward the rocky hills above the military road. Not ideal, but better than landing beside the trucks. Carter grips the parachute lines and pulls slightly, trying to guide himself toward a narrow ridge where shadows might hide him. The ground rises quickly. Altitude, 600 feet. Then he hears something new. Engines, not jets. Vehicles. He looks down again. One of the Iranian trucks has stopped. Several soldiers are pointing upward. They've seen him. The truck doors slam open. Men spill out onto the road, raising rifles toward the sky. Carter's heart pounds harder now. Altitude, 300 feet. The soldiers begin moving toward the hillside where he will land. Fast, very fast. He quickly pulls the release knife from his survival kit. If he lands cleanly, he must cut the parachute immediately, before the wind drags him across the open rocks. Altitude, 100 feet. The desert floor rushes toward him. Carter bends his knees slightly, preparing for impact. The ground slams into him harder than expected. Dust explodes around his boots as he rolls across the rocky slope. Pain shoots through his shoulder, but he's alive. He immediately slices the parachute cords with the knife. The canopy collapses in the wind and drifts across the hillside. For a brief second, the desert is silent again. Then he hears shouting below. Iranian voices. Closer now. Carter grabs the small survival radio from his vest. He whispers quickly. Roosevelt Control. This is Alpha 1. I am down. Repeat pilot down. Static answers. No response. The desert is suddenly alive with sound. Boots crunch against loose rock as Iranian soldiers climb the hillside toward Lieutenant Daniel Carter's position. Their voices echo through the dry air. Sharp commands in Persian cutting across the valley. Carter crouches behind a jagged rock formation halfway up the slope. His breathing is slow now, controlled. The survival pistol feels small in his hand. 6 rounds. That is all. He knows the rules. A downed pilot is not supposed to fight unless absolutely necessary. Capture means intelligence, interrogation, maybe prisoner exchange someday. But the training officers had always added one quiet sentence. If you can evade, evade. Carter peers carefully over the rock. 4 soldiers move upward through the loose gravel, rifles raised. 2 others remain near the truck below, scanning the hillside through binoculars. They are spreading out, hunting. He lowers his head again. The small survival radio rests in his hand. Still nothing but static. Roosevelt Control. This is Alpha 1, he whispers again. Pilot down in hostile territory. The radio crackles. Then a faint voice finally breaks through the interference. Alpha 1. Signal weak. Repeat location. Carter exhales. Southern mountains. Approximately 30 miles inland from Bandar Abbas. The radio pauses. Then the calm voice answers. Copy that, Alpha 1. Rescue assets are being prepared. Prepared. Not coming yet. Carter understands what that means. It could take hours, maybe longer. He glances down the hill again. The Iranian soldiers are closer now. One of them suddenly spots the collapsed parachute tangled among the rocks. He shouts something to the others. The group immediately changes direction, moving straight toward Carter's hiding place. Too close, Carter slowly backs away from the rock formation, moving deeper into the narrow ridge behind him. The terrain here becomes rougher, filled with steep cracks and broken stone. Good for hiding, bad for running. The soldiers reach the parachute. They examine it quickly. Then one of them points uphill, right toward Carter. A rifle shot cracks across the hillside. The bullet strikes the rocks just above his head, spraying dust into the air. They know he's here. Carter moves quickly now, slipping between boulders and climbing higher along the ridge. His boots scrape against the loose stone as he pushes toward a narrow canyon opening ahead. If he can reach the canyon, he might disappear into the mountains. Behind him, the soldiers follow. Another rifle shot echoes across the desert. The bullet smashes into a rock beside his leg. Carter ducks and keeps moving. The canyon entrance is only 50 meters away now. 40, 30. He dives into the narrow passage just as more shots crack behind him. The canyon walls rise steeply on both sides, blocking the open view of the desert below. For a moment, Carter presses his back against the stone and listens. Footsteps approach the canyon entrance.